Hi, this is Craig Stocks here at Utah Desert Remote Observatories. You can find us online at utahdesertremote.com. And today we're going to look at how to put together this two-image or two-panel mosaic of the Antares and Rho Ophiuchi region. And we're going to do that in PixInsight and Photoshop. So if you've watched my videos before, you know that I like to use Photoshop for the things it's really good at and PixInsight for the things that it's really good at. So we'll start in PixInsight, and I've already done a lot of the work, so this will hopefully go fairly quickly. This is really a tutorial on how to do the mosaic, not so much how to do the individual details leading up to it in PixInsight. I do have other videos that go through those details. So to start with, let's look at the two images, and this is, well, let's look at that's through the Enhance filter. So this is just the plain RGB image of the Antares region, and here is the second image of the Rho Ophiuchi region. And one thing I want you to notice is that this image is upside down from this image. So to blend them together, this one has to be rotated. And we make the problem a little bit more challenging because we've got both the RGB and we also have the dual-narrowband. These were processed at the same time, so this Enhance data matches this RGB data, and likewise the Enhance data of the Rho Ophiuchi region matches the RGB data. So what I want to do is put these together so that I have two panoramas, because eventually I'm going to put some of the hydrogen data from the Enhance on top, and I want to do my usual starless workflow. So I really need three layers. I need a starless RGB layer, I need a starless Enhance layer, and then I need the RGB stars to add the stars back. But I want to put this all together into a panorama or a mosaic first. And by far the easiest way I found to do this is in Photoshop. And it's so easy you almost think it shouldn't work. So the images we're looking at here, I have saved as 16-bit TIFFs, and these are already processed. So I've done the white balance with spectrophotometric color calibration. I've done gradient removal. I've done some sharpening. I have stretched these so they're nonlinear, and I've done some noise reduction. So these are pretty well processed, but I have 4 separate images. So if we go to Photoshop, first thing we need to do is load all 4 of those images. And we're going to do that through the scripts, load files into stack, and that brings up this dialog box where we can browse for the files that we want to bring in. And in this case, they're actually in 2 separate folders. So they're in my swap images folder. So let's start with the Rho Ophiuchi, and they're just saved in the master. So here is the Rho Enhance and the Rho Ophiuchi RGB. So I'll add those to the list, and now I'll browse again, and I'll navigate to the swap folder that has the Antares information. And here is the Antares RGB and LE, so we'll open those. And now we have all 4 files in the list, so I'll click OK. And Photoshop now will open those 4 files as individual layers. So we have 4 layers now. We have the Rho Ophiuchi RGB, we have the Rho Ophiuchi Enhance. These are just the same 4 we just looked at in PixInsight. And what I want to do is put these into a mosaic. And I'm just going to select all 4 of these and go to Edit, Auto Align Layers, and I'm just going to use Auto as the method. Click OK. And like I say, this is so easy you would think it wouldn't work. And it probably doesn't work all the time, but I think pretty much all the times I have tried it, it worked. And in fact, here is the, we've got the Rho Ophiuchi 2 versions on top, and then the L Enhance, or the, I guess they're kind of mixed up. Antares is at the bottom, Rho's on the top. So what we need to do now, and you can kind of see from the previews here, that's the RGB, there's the L Enhance, there's the Antares side in RGB, and I can turn this on and off, and you can see that in fact it does align, and it flipped the Rho image around. So let's put the RGB together, like so, and then we've got the Rho. Let's put. So now we've got the. Do this again. We want the RGB together and the L Enhance together. So the first two are just the RGB data from both Rho Ophiuchis and Antares. So I want to select those 2 layers and go back to Edit, Auto Blend Layers. In Photoshop, when you do a mosaic or a panorama, it's a 2-step process. First you align the layers, then you blend the layers. So we've done the alignment. Now we're going to blend, but this time we're only going to blend 2 at a time. And again, we're going to choose the panorama method for blending, and we've checked the box that says seamless tones and colors. And what that does is it lets Photoshop blend the 2 together. Click OK. And it's going to blend these 2 together into one seamless image. And it's doing that through masks and through adjustments. So there's the RGB blended together, and you can see the mask. Let me turn these off. So that's one side. That's the other side. And if we just want to blend it, merge these 2 together, they're both selected. I can just do a Control-E or Command-E on the Mac to merge those 2 layers. So there's our RGB. Let's do the same thing with the L Enhance data. Select the 2 layers we want to blend. Edit, Auto Blend Layers, OK. So now it's merging these into a single layer. And that's done. Control-E. So now we just have 2 layers. We have the panorama of the RGB data, the panorama of the L Enhance data, and it's all aligned to each other. So we not only have 2 panoramas, we have 2 panoramas that are aligned. If you do the alignment separately, if you do the RGB in one step and then independently do the L Enhance, you run the risk of them being close but not exactly aligned, and I've seen that happen. There's a little bit of tolerance in how everything gets blended together, and if you don't do them at the same time like this, they may not match. I have done this, by the way, with as many as 12 each of RGB and L Enhance and had it work just fine. So now that this is done, I usually add just a solid fill, solid black layer at the bottom to fill in those transparent areas, and then just do File, Save a Copy, and I'll save this as a 16-bit TIFF, and I want to click the discard layers and just save a copy. So we're just saving this as a single 16-bit layer. And in fact, I've already done that because we want to take these back into PixInsight and do our star removal. So let's close the 4 that we started with. These are the 2 that we just created from Photoshop. There's the L Enhance, there's the RGB, and it's just as simple now as using Star Exterminator to process these 2 files, and that leaves you then with the RGB stars. There's the L Enhance Starless, and somewhere I have the RGB Starless, but it looks like I don't have it open. I probably accidentally closed it at some point. But the point is, now we have the 3 files that we need. Let me see if I can find that real quick. It should be There we go. So there are the three layers that we want to take into Photoshop for the final processing. We have the RGB starless, we have the L-enhanced starless, and we have the stars. And I actually processed a darkened version of the stars. So if we want to pop back into Photoshop, we can just do the same thing with the scripts, load files into stack, but this time we'll load those three files that we just looked at. I think they're in this folder. So there's the stars, there's the L-enhanced starless, and RGB starless. So this is the three panoramas that we blended together. There's the plain RGB, there's the stars, and the L-enhance is on the bottom. So I'll just real quickly drop these into a group, name it stars, change the group to screen blending mode, and we'll turn it off for the time being. This is the L-enhance, and we'll just turn it off for the time being. Just the RGB by itself makes a very striking image. I'll drop it into a group, label it RGB. We've got a big reflection here around the bright star Antares. And what I want you to notice is it's a big reflection, but in fact, all the detail underneath it is still visible. It's just that the brightness and the color is shifted because of that reflection. So we can make that go away by adding two blank layers and then painting on them carefully. We'll add a blank layer in soft light blending mode. And what that lets us do is paint with either a black or a white brush to darken or lighten. And then we'll add another blank layer, and we'll put it in color blending mode. And that will let us paint with a brush with different colors. And let's start with the color, in fact, because it looks like there's almost more of a color impact than a brightness impact. And what I'm going to do is just hold the alternate key and sample a color around the perimeter. And then I'll paint with maybe something like 20% opacity, and just keep sampling and painting. And the goal here is to blend the colors. So now that the color's more or less homogenized, now we can come down to the soft light layer where we're going to change brightness and darkness. I'll tap D to get my default colors, and I want a lower opacity, so I'm going to go to a 10% opacity brush, which I can do by just tapping the 1 key. And painting with black will darken. Painting with white will brighten. So I'll start by painting with the dark and kind of work from the edges in, and I may have to get a smaller brush and get more precise in some areas. And I may even need to reduce the opacity of the brush. Now I can tap 0.5 quickly, and that'll give me 5% opacity, and that'll be even a little more controllable. And as we're evening out the brightness, we can start to see there are still some color differences. So I'm going to go back to the color layer, go to 20% opacity, sample out here, and adjust the color. That's pretty close, I think, to neutralizing that that reflection. So that was before we removed it, and that's after we removed it. Sometimes turning those layers on and off helps you visualize what was there and helps you see whether everything you've done is correct. Sometimes it looks like maybe we went a little too far here. And it's okay to have a little bit of a bright spot because Antares is a bright star. I think that's pretty good. If we turn the stars on, that's what it looks like with the stars. So instead of that, we have that. And then for the most part, the rest of the editing is just standard editing. I would add a levels adjustment and adjust the overall brightness of the RGB. Maybe even bring up the white end here. I probably would add some saturation because I tend to like a lot of saturation. And then we've got the L-enhance data here, and it has the same issue with the reflection here. So let's do the same thing. We'll add a soft light layer, and we'll add a color layer. And we'll start with the color. And I'm clicking around the outside so I can copy that color in. I'll go to the soft light layer and we'll darken this down a little bit. And I don't think we're going to really be adding much in the way of hydrogen in this region. So this isn't really that critical. We just want it to not be obvious. Turn the stars off. And you can see there's also a bit of a problem with the some stars that star artifacts, I guess I'd say, that didn't get taken out. So I'm going to come down to this layer that has the data, and I'm just going to use the remove tool and just position it, make it a little bigger than the thing I want to remove, and just click, and it will remove those artifacts. And most of the time it does it pretty nicely. And again, all we're really adding from this layer is the hydrogen detail, so we don't have to be particularly precise with this. Now, if we just want to add the hydrogen without a lot of fuss, we can just come up to the L-enhance group layer and double click to the right of the layer name, and that opens the advanced blending options. And if we want to add just hydrogen, the hydrogen is just in the red channel. So let's turn off the green and blue, and then let's put this in screen blending mode instead of normal. And so now what we're doing is adding just the red from the L-enhance to the rest of the image. But notice we're getting some red everywhere, and that's because we have some white light contamination of the L-enhance. And to fix that, we would really want to subtract the RGB data from this. So let's just come down to the RGB group, and I'm just going to make a copy of the base layer along with the two adjustments, and then I'm going to combine those into just a single layer. So we have, this is the RGB with those color and burn and dodge layers already applied. And I'm just going to bring it up here above the L-enhance and put this layer in subtract blending mode. So now what we've done is continuum subtraction. We've used the RGB data to subtract from the L-enhance color data. So that's without subtraction, that's with subtraction, and we can see we do have some of that filter showing up here, so that does need some additional processing. Just adjust this. something like that. So there is our RGB data on the bottom. And so there's just the RGB. This is just the L-enhance that we're adding back in. And that's the L-enhance with the continuum subtracted data added back in using the screen blending mode and just the red channel. And if we want to adjust this, we can always add another levels adjustment if we want to make the HA a little bit more intense. And then add the stars back in for a finishing touch. And there's basically a finished image. The thing I really wanted to show you, though, was how easy it is to put two panels together using Photoshop, using just the very simple, if you recall, we used the, under Edit, we did an auto align layers. We don't have multiple layers here, so it won't auto align. So auto align layers, and then we selected the ones we wanted to blend together and did an auto blend layers on the RGB and auto blend of the L-enhance in order to give us these two layers that we could then remove the stars from, bring back into Photoshop, and finish the image. So I hope you found this useful. It's a little bit more technical, a little bit more advanced, I think. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments below. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day today and an even better night tonight under a clear, dark sky. Thanks.